Hey guys, welcome to the show. We're your co hosts, Will and John. This is our fourth episode, I believe.
Yeah.
And we're the last episode. If you didn't listen to that, you can go check it out. But it was my imagining of the sequel to Big Trouble in Little China that never happened. And in this episode, John is going to pitch his sequel to The Goonies that never happened. And I know some people are still got their fingers crossed that that will happen, but in case it doesn't, or even if it does, John's going to pitch his version today. So let's just mention to the listeners why we like the original.
I mean, I just saw it again 2 weeks ago, and it holds up. I mean, it's still so great, and actually, it's kind of a great Halloween movie because there's some horror elements or scary elements. It's a PG movie, but there's skeleton pirates and there's scary traps, booby traps. Um, but it's so well done. It was directed by Richard Donner, released in 1985, by a screenplay by Chris Columbus, and story by Steven Spielberg. That's a fantastic, cast and crew.
I
Um,
wonder how many of the fans of the original are female, because I've obviously the group of boys, or the main group, they're boys, but there are a couple of girls there. But I feel like it's geared towards boys specifically.
yes.
And, you know, for us when we were kids, when we saw it, it just, you know, perfectly fit our imaginations. And I don't think I was ever big on pirates, but I think boys in general find pirates more fascinating than girls. um, but there must be female fans of the movie. Um, I think the only other thing that's weird about the movie now, which you know what I'm gonna say, is the character of Sloth. I
Oh, yeah.
I kind of, I wonder back when they were talking about the movie and coming up with it, or what, if Spielberg, why, or why Spielberg was like, let's have this hideously deformed man locked up in the basement who's gonna become, a friend of the guys. Like, what?
And that's some of
How
the
did?
scariest scenes, right? When we first hear Sloth moaning and screaming from his cage. And then, Chunk gets locked in with him and you first see Sloth's face. It's terrifying. But then, he turns out to be just kind of like a big kid. And then he becomes, Chunk's best friend.
I would think, thinking of like Indiana Jones and Star Wars and those classic movies that are heavily influenced by serials, old serials from like the 30s. Obviously, with the Goonies, they must have been influenced by old pirate movies. But as far as I know, there weren't any hideously deformed pirate characters. So I wonder where that inspiration came from.
I
Someone who's listening to this probably knows.
Yeah, I wonder. I'm sure we could find a Spielberg quote about why he came up with that, or if that was Chris Columbus. Um,
I think if they made the movie now, he wouldn't, they'd have a character like that, but he wouldn't be,
so deformed,
yeah, or handicapped probably.
and it's not like he was born that way. In this, in the story,
Mm,
the mom just says she's dropped him a lot,
yeah,
and that's how he was deformed. And it's terrible.
yeah, ter- terribly tragic, but just kind of a quick aside in the movie.
Yeah, she's
Of
like
course,
singing a lullaby to him, "Rockabye Baby."
yeah. And his brothers are normal, but they're psychotic, I guess.
Yes, but again, that's Robert Davi and Joey Pantaleone, and they're fantastic.
Hmm.
And who's Mama Fratelli? What was her
Anne
name?
Ramsey, I
That's
think.
it. Yeah. So my version would take place. Wait, so the original came out in 1985. So my version would have come out in 1989.
Hmm.
So just, you know, 3 or 4 years later. And so all the boys that were in the original, they were 13, are now 16, 17, 18. So they're all like high school seniors.
So at the very end of the original, they've got the gems or whatever from the pirate booty, right?
Yep.
And it's gonna save the town,
Yeah.
and then the movie just ends.
Movie just ends. Yep.
Okay. Alright, so you ready to
Oh, yeah. I'm ready to pitch. This is Goonies 2 One Eyed Willie's Revenge, which should have been released in 1989. Prologue. Mama Fratelli is in prison. Two guards tell her that her two sons, Francis and Jake, have escaped the men's prison. The guards joke that the two kids are probably on their way to Mexico already and have no interest in saving a fat old lady. Mama just smiles, though. And just then, Jake and Francis, dressed in prison guard uniforms, knock out the two laughing guards, and the Fratelli crime family escapes. Now we catch up with the Goonies in the Goondocks neighborhood of Astoria, Washington. It's 1989. Goonies are now all seniors in high school. There's just one last weekend of high school left, and then the four friends, Mikey, Mouth, Data, and Chunk, will all go their separate ways, and in a very real way, they've already have. Corey Feldman's Mouth, now just Clark, has become the preppy kid young Republican. He has a full ride at Yale and is leaving the day after graduation to intern at a New York law firm for the summer. He wears a suit and tie to high school now and has lost all of his funny humor. Jeff Cohen's Chunk, now Lawrence, has gone from chunk to hunk. He's the captain of the varsity football team, the school's star quarterback, or maybe running back, the prom king, and his girlfriend Stacy is the prom queen and captain of the cheerleader squad. Chunk is the most popular kid in school. Kehui Kwan's Data has transformed into Richie, a bad boy skateboarder. He's given up his love for James Bond and making gadgets to smoking, drinking, and learning death-defying tricks on a skateboard. He's now a tough kid who's been suspended more times than he can count. His parents are sending him off to the army when he turns 18, and he's looking forward to it because he wants to blow stuff up. John Mutowski's Sloth works at the local video store. He has his own apartment, a pet named Mom, a pet kitten named Mom, and he's like a big kid that the most of the town is kind of adopted. Sloth has changed his name to Larry, named after his best friend, Lawrence, Chunk. Sloth goes to all of Chunk's football games and is his biggest fan. Chunk, to his credit, has stayed very close to Sloth. He loves him like a big brother. And then that leaves us Sean Astin's Mikey. He's stuck in the past. He hasn't changed at all. He's still the shy rule follower. He misses his friends and wishes they hadn't drifted apart. Mikey is the only one planning on staying in Astoria after graduation. He's going to work at his dad's museum, which has grown in fame and size after the events of the first movie. One-Eyed Willie's ship, the Inferno, is kept in dry dock inside the large museum. Mikey loves giving tours of the repaired ship. Josh Brolin Brand is back from home from college for the summer. He's brokenhearted because his girlfriend, Andy, played by Carrie Green, has recently broken up with him. And he has no idea why. I'm just going to say it. They were in a long distance relationship, two different colleges, and everything had been fine until Andy called his dorm room, and a out of breath girl picked up the phone, and she thought, "Oh, Brand's cheating on me," but that was actually the girlfriend of his jerk roommate. And so it's an easy miscommunication that can be figured out by the two of them. And then when they kiss near the end of the movie, it's like, oh, they kiss and make up and they're back together. Um, Brand is being forced to work at his dad's museum, which he hates. Andy is also back in town, also heartbroken because of this miscommunication. She thinks, Brand has cheated on her. She tells her BFF Steph, played by Martha Plimpton, about how she called Brand's phone and blah, 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 miscommunication. Um, During this montage, we reintroduce all of the Goonies and the neighborhood. And during this montage, each Goonie receives a letter, handwritten letter from Mikey, inviting them all to come to meet him that night at his dad's museum. Mouth reads the letter, tosses it in the trash. Data reads his and burns it just to light a cigarette. Chunk starts reading his, but his girlfriend shows up and he forgets all about it. Cut to On the Run with the Fratellis. Francis and Jake bicker about where they want to go to hide from the cops. Francis wants to go to Italy, of course, because he loves singing opera. And Jake wants to go to Tahiti. But Mama shocks them both, telling them they first have to go to Astoria to find their brother, Sloth, and teach those kids that got us arrested a lesson they'll never forget. Cut
So the
to,
prison breakout was like in Seattle or something,
yeah,
you know? Okay.
it's somewhere nearby.
All right.
Um, that night, the museum. Mikey's locking up, says goodbye to his dad. Brand goes off to wallow in his despair. Mikey waits for the Goonies, but it doesn't seem like any of them are going to show up. And he's getting really distraught. And then Mouth shows up first. And then Chunk. And then Sloth. And then finally Data. And it's like, we couldn't, not come. Well, I know we haven't talked for a while, but it's good to see you guys all. And so they go into the museum. Mikey turns on the lights, and we get this is when we'll get the reveal of One-Eyed Willie's entire ship is inside this museum, and it's been repaired perfectly. And so the five friends, including Chunk, I'm going to call them the young Goonies, even though now they're 18, 19, and whatever. No, not Chunk. Well, Sloth. Sloth's a man, but he's kind of he's kind of a big kid. So I'll call them the young Goonies, and then Brand, Steph, and Andy, the older Goonies. So young Goonies, they go aboard the pirate ship, and they kind of, walk down memory lane. And Mikey, it just starts to, it just talk about how I miss you guys, and I wish nothing had changed. And Mouth says, hey man, it's just part of life. People change, people drift apart. It's too bad, the government only let our parents keep those couple little jewels, because if they let us keep the rest of the treasure, we would have been set for life. And Mikey is just, what was the good of saving our neighborhood if we weren't able to stay friends? And Mikey just says, I want my friends back. But all the other kids are just like, hey man, we've got things to do. We're changing. And Mikey's on the verge of tears. Everyone's about to leave. And then we have our inciting incident. Mikey kicks a piece of the deck, and a loud thud is heard. A ticking sound starts up, and a small trapdoor gets released, and a cannonball starts rolling around along a track. It's another one of One-Eyed Willie's booby traps. The Goonies all watch in amazement. They follow the elaborate Rube Goldberg chain of events until a small drawer opens. Mikey puts his hand inside and takes out One-Eyed Willie's diary and one half of a gold pocket watch, both never found until now. Goonies crowd around and marvel at it. Mouth, he's the one that speaks Spanish, so he starts to translate the last page of the diary. Turns out One-Eyed Willie wasn't near modern-day Astoria, Washington, because him and his crew were fleeing from the Spanish Armada. No. He was there to pay a ransom for his old first mate and best friend, Knife Hand Jack. He's got a knife for a hand. All of One Eyed Willie's treasure was actually going to be paid to save his best friend. But Knife Hand Jack had been captured by the pirate king, Pierre. One Eyed Willie was supposed to sail to a heart shaped island off the coast of Astoria, pay the ransom, and save his best friend, Knife Hand Jack. But then the Spanish Armada showed up, forcing Willie to sail into the cave where he and his crew were soon trapped. The last entry is all about the Inferno getting stuck in the cave and all of Willie's men betraying him when they found out the truth that Willie was going to give up all of the treasure just to save Jack. The Goonies all get excited. Do you want to say something?
Yeah,
Yeah?
I have a couple of
Okay.
questions. In the original, do they establish um, the year or years when
It
One-Eyed Willie,
it's like
went into the cave at all?
1632.
Okay.
Yeah, he was there for a long time.
And then um, this new backstory that you're bringing up
Mm-hmm.
in the movie, are we just hearing it or are we seeing it with flashbacks and stuff?
Oh, there's no flashbacks in the original, but that could be a lot of fun to see the Inferno as a real pirate ship, and maybe not really see One-Eyed Willie's face, but like from behind, or he's in shadow except for his eye patch. That could be a lot of fun, actually. And we could see Knife Hand Jack, his like best friend, who's got a knife for a hand. Um,
You could also bring in some, classic character actors from the 80s to fill those roles too.
that's
That
true.
would be fun.
I had not considered that, but I love that idea. Yeah. And we could see, like my idea was that Knife Hand Jack, he went off on his own to be his own pirate captain, and then his ship got sunk by the pirate king, this French pirate king Pierre, and then he was taken. Um, but because the idea is that One-Eyed Willie's friendship with his best friend Jack sent him on this quest to save him, and then all of these our young Goonies, they go on this quest to this heart-shaped island and to find out whatever happened to one Knife Hand Jack, and in so doing, they all become friends again. It's pretty simple.
Yeah. I have
Yeah,
I have another question, but I think I'll save it till the end because I
where I'm going.
want to hear how this plays out. Yeah.
Okay, so um, where was it? The Goonies. The Goonies are all excited because there's this supposed to be this revelation is incredible to them, and so they look at a modern day map of the islands just off the coast, and one of them just happens to look a lot like a heart. It's currently a bird sanctuary, and Mikey recounts a story that 200 years ago a family tried to live on the island, but it was haunted. They heard a loud moaning sound every night and gave up, and no one's set foot on the island ever since. So the Goonies decide to go all on one last adventure. They're going to go to the island and see if they can find anything. Data's like, how are we going to get there? And Mouth gets this crazy idea. He says, let's take One-Eyed Willie's ship. And Mikey's like, that's idiotic. It's on land. We'll just go down to the docks and steal a dinghy. And you're like, okay. So we cut to the docks. Young Goonies plus Sloth. That's just the Young Goonies. They're looking for a dinghy to steal. They find one, but they're surprised by Brand, who's just been on a long walk, wallowing in misery. Demands to know what they're up to. They start to explain, but then, coincidentally, Andy and Steph show up. That's just the one big coincidence. I don't know exactly how they show up. They were on a walk or something. Tur-
Just so I'm
yeah.
clear, is this like the original where it's taking over the place of like 12 hours or
Oh
something?
yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
The whole movie well maybe takes because maybe it starts in the morning and ends the next morning, so like 24 hours. Yeah. But most of the action's over like, yeah, 12 hours. The young Goonies turns out we're about to steal Steph's dad's dinghy. Andy snubs Brand, but after hearing the boys' plan, all the older Goonies decide to go with men, with Steph piloting the dinghy. So now the reunited Goonies all depart the docks, but none of them notice that the Fratellis are watching them. Act 2, the heart-shaped island. Goonies land on the island, and using flashlights, they search around, don't see anything. Just as the older Goonies are about to say, hey, let's give up and go home, they all hear a haunting moaning sound. Ooh, ooh. Mikey goes to investigate. Turns out it's a cave, and it's the wind whistling through it. Goonies all descend into the cave, and once inside, they find steps cut into the rock and a symbol cut into the wall, a skull and crossbones. This must be the place. The Pirate King's ship. The Goonies come to a wooden door in the cave. They open it and step inside a portion of the Pirate King's Pierre's recreated pirate ship. They find a note written to One Eyed Willie from the Pirate King. Steph translates the French. My ship crashed.
Hey,
Yeah.
what do you mean recreated?
So it's like they're going through this, regular stone cave and they come to a door. They open the wooden door and they go inside and they light some lamps, let's say. And it's like what we're going to find out is, well, what I was about to say was that the Pirate King's ship crashed uh, on this island, and so he had years to move pieces of the ship underneath into the cave. So when they go through the door, it's like they're not on the deck of the ship, but like they're below decks. There's like wooden ceilings, wooden walls, wooden floors, and it's like the inside of a pirate ship. And the letter that the Pirate King had left to One Eyed Willie says, my ship crashed on the rocks, so I've had years to make this place my home and a prison for your friend, Knife Hand Jack. If you survive my traps, maybe we'll finally meet, and maybe you'll finally save your only friend. Booby traps. First one's called Swords. The Goonies all proceed through a corridor and come to a stone door. Doesn't seem to be any way to open it, but then Mikey finds a wooden lever. Should I pull it? Brand's like, yeah, but everyone get ready to run. Mikey pulls the lever, which starts up another Rube Goldberg machine. Eventually, ancient ropes start to pull the stone door up, but then slots in the cave in the walls open up, and these swords start like jutting out at them from all sides, and they have to run this gauntlet and survive. We cut to top side of the island. The Fratellis have just landed and start their way down into the cave after the kids. Next booby trap is cannons. It's a good one. Goonies continue the adventure. They reach a long corridor with French words written at the start. Steph, again, because she speaks French, she translates, says, in order to save your friend Willie, you have to run for your life. Sloth accidentally bumps a lever. Portholes in the walls open up, exposing pirate ship cannons. Kids all run for it as dozens of ancient cannons begin blasting at them, and they survive, of course. Um, uh, oh, most of the most fun for me, where I remember as a kid watching, was the booby traps. So we need like 5 or 6 booby traps again, but I'm gonna just cut to the low point, the end of this second act. Um, there's another let's say there's another booby trap, but this one's a puzzle. There's like a wooden wall with different symbols, and you can push in one symbol, but if you push in the wrong symbol, disaster. And there's a puzzle. It says, I act like a cat, I look like a cat, yet I am not a cat. What am I? It's in French. But then everyone starts arguing. They can't figure out the riddle. Andy and Bran argue about Bran being, unfaithful, which he denies. Mike and his friends all get angry at each other. Mouth Data, Chunk all blame Mikey for this stupid, dangerous adventure, while Mikey calls them bad friends. Our low point is not, someone getting captured or someone getting hurt. It's just that all of the friends get angry at each other, and it's like, I was never your friend. I hate you. Because for a kid, that's the worst, when you're best friend and you fight. And Mikey walks off crying. Everyone's down in the dumps, and then Sloth says, I know, I can figure it out. I act like a cat, I look like a cat, yet I'm not a cat. What am I? I'm a kitten. And there's a little kitten symbol, and he presses it in before anyone can stop him, and it's the right answer. And the door opens, and they go through. And this is when they enter the Pirate King's captain's quarters. So it's like he moved his entire quarters down into this cave. And so they walk in, they're in this Captain Pirate King's quarters. Yeah.
Question. So at this point, the Fratellis haven't caught up with
No,
them
not
yet,
yet.
but we're entering at the third act
Yes.
here.
So in the first movie, there's a great sequence where Chunk gets abducted by the Fratellis, and they like torture him, and he tells that hilarious story about all the bad things he's ever done, and they're just trying to find out, what he was doing there, but I wanted to keep all the Goonies together this time.
I was
Yeah.
just wondering about, because like in the original, I think the urgency of getting through the booby traps and whatnot is intensified because the Fratellis are chasing after them.
Yeah,
So
you're right.
I was wondering if it's the
No, you're
same
right.
thing
You're
here.
right. They should, at some point during one of the or before the low point, the kids, the young Goonies and old Goonies, they should see the Fratellis, and they should. You're right, and they should be fleeing from them as they go deeper and deeper into this pirate ship cave. Okay. Yep, you're right. I didn't even think about that.
And the brothers are like squabbling
Brothers
with
are
each
squabbling, and
other.
the mother is calling him idiots, and yeah, they're getting hurt in hilarious ways. Yeah, you're right. All right.
Okay.
Yeah, I wrote this in an hour. No, but you're right.
Yeah.
You're absolutely right.
I,
The kids should be, to boost the drama. The kids should be now being chased by the Fratellis, so they have to figure out these um, booby traps, or the Fratellis will catch them. So yeah.
I also wonder, how they, generally speaking, they say, oh, the sequel should be darker, more intense, kind of like Temple of
Ugh,
Doom.
Temple of Doom.
So, so I'm,
That's
I'm wondering
seriously
if,
dark. That's true.
like, during, well, as, this is probably too dark, but like with the cannon booby trap or whatnot, one of the doors opens and the cannon like takes off Sloth's head or something.
No, none of the Goonies die. None of the Fratellis
Okay,
die either.
because that would really
Oh
ratchet
yeah,
up the
yeah.
drama.
We kill Sean
All
Astin.
right,
We
too
kill
dark.
Sean Astin like in the first thing. Our main character. Kids will be crying in the theater. Okay.
Well, you'd have to introduce new members to the gang, the ones that can be
Right.
sacrificed, you
Uh,
know?
yeah.
Like Chunk's
Yeah.
girlfriend or
Chunk's
something.
girlfriend get her head chopped off. No, no, we're not doing that. But you're right. They need to be they're being
Alright.
chased by the Fratellis. So there was a moment probably at the midpoint where the Fratellis show up and it's like, oh my god, we got to keep going, and now we can't go back. Now we can't go back because they've got guns and they want revenge. Um,
How about, like, the Fratellis, they don't wanna repeat, what happened last time, so this time they come with, like, a couple of vicious attack dogs or something and set them
oh,
loose in
okay,
advance. So it's the dogs at first that are chasing them, through
that's fun.
something
Okay,
like that.
yeah,
Yeah.
and
Oh, and then maybe by the end of the movie, those dogs fall in love with Sloth, and so now he's
he's got a
got
cat and a
2
cat.
dogs and a cat.
That's kind of fun.
Yeah. And
Yeah, we could.
he transforms them with
Right,
love,
like they have a scene where they're running at
right?
him, and it's like, oh, they're gonna eat Sloth, and we cut, and like, oh, what happened to Sloth? And then he's like petting the dogs. He's like, these are good
Yeah.
dogs. Okay, that's fun too.
Yeah.
All right, all right. Um, so Act 3 starts up. The Goonies enter the Pirate King's captain quarters. They find the captain, the Pirate King, Pierre, obviously a skeleton, sitting on a throne, wearing a gold crown, holding a letter. Um, Kids take it from his hands. Um, and Steph, again, she translates the French. You never came, Willie, and all my men wanted to leave me, but I wouldn't let them. So now you'll die too. Choose which death you prefer. And there's two doors behind him. At that moment, that's when, let's say, the Fratellis finally catch up to them. And they've got their guns on the kids. Sloth gets in the way, puts himself in between him and his friends, and that's when Mama Fratelli's like, Sloth, you're come back, baby. I'll be your mom again. And Sloth this time is like, you're not my mom. My mom is a nice kitten that I have back at home, because this kitten's name is Mom. Um, During the big argument, Jake, or Francis, takes the gold crown off of the Pirate King's head, which starts up a booby trap. The whole place, like, I don't know, starts to blow up or something. And so the Fratellis have to go through one door, and the Goonies all have to go through the other. Um, the Goonies, they find themselves just outside of Knife Hand Jack's cage. Knife Hand Jack is, of course, also a skeleton, sitting cross legged on the floor of his one man prison. Mikey carefully opens the cage, goes up to Knife Hand Jack's skeleton. Turns out, yes, Jack's left hand is a knife, must have lost it and replaced it with a knife. But in Jack's right hand is a note written to One Eyed Willie. Um, Mouth translates the Spanish, says, Willie, I hope you never come here. If you pay the Pirate King my ransom, he's promised to just put you in here with me. I miss our adventures together, but most of all, I miss my friend. Mikey also gently removes the other half of the gold pocket watch. The friends all share this special moment together. All their bad feelings from before kind of vanish. They all hug. Um, And then the Goonies reach the cave's final chamber. The Fratellis are just outside. They're kind of like, Sloth is holding a door closed, but maybe Jake Fratelli, maybe he's got a grenade, and he's like, I'm gonna blow open this door, or maybe it's not a grenade. Maybe he found some, I don't know, a pirate dynamite or something. I'm gonna blow up the door to get you guys. And Sloth is against the door. Oh no, what's gonna happen? They're in the final chamber. There's no way out. Um, and there's water dripping from the ceiling. And one of the kids, catches some of the water and licks it. And it's like, it's salt water. We must be like right underneath the ocean. Um, and there's several barrels of gunpowder lining the ceilings, and a fuse gets lit. That's when Data quickly makes a new James Bond tool with a cigarette, a piece of gum, some old rope, and oil from the lantern. Basically, he causes the explosion to blast up, and the whole ocean comes down into the cave, and the kids and the Fratellis all swim up to safety to the heart-shaped island. And when the Goonies and Fratelli swim up to the surface, they find themselves just off the beach. Oh no, yeah, this is even better. Not they're not near the island. They're just off the beach where the first film ended. And the Goonies swim to shore first, just as the police and all their parents again show up at the same place. The police arrest the three Fratellis again. Um, Andy and Brand, they kiss. This time, Steph and Mouth, because they're kind of, Mouth kind of has a crush on Steph in the first movie, and Steph kind of has a crush on Mouth, but she's too old. He's 13, she's 16, but now she's whatever. She's 20 or 19, and he's 18, let's say, and uh, they kiss. On the beach, all the Goonies hug. As the friends are all hugging, Mikey takes out the pocket watch, the two pieces. He puts them together. They fit perfectly. He winds it up and it starts ticking. It's like, oh, it's amazing. And then the watch begins to whir and click, and the face of the watch pops open and reveals a treasure map. And then we end our movie.
It just occurred to me, in the original, isn't there a cut scene, a deleted scene with like a giant octopus?
Yes. Yeah, and you can watch it on YouTube. I actually did that after I saw the movie because in the end of the original movies, the original movie, when the kids are on the beach reunited with their parents, one of the kids even says, "Oh, there was a pirate ship, and then there was a giant squid," and you're like, "What?" But yeah, they actually shot.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's
Oh
one of the
yeah.
kids even says it, but you're just like, "That's a weird lie to make." But yeah, they actually did shoot a giant squid. So maybe we should bring that squid or giant octopus back for the second movie.
Yeah, I was thinking when they blow the rocks in order to escape, but the ocean comes pouring in. I was thinking at first, maybe that'd be an opportunity for sharks or something. It seems like that kind of movie. But then I remembered, oh, there's the
I
squid.
like that.
So I don't
Maybe
know.
they
It
have
could
the
be,
squid earlier, like right when they like, and on page 50, let's say halfway through the movie, when the Fratellis finally show up in the cave in the like maybe there's the cave kind of opens up and there's like just 2 feet of water and the kids have to trudge through it, and then someone gets like yanked under the water, and everyone's like, where'd he go, where'd he go? And then you like, Mikey bursts out and like, and then like, everyone starts getting grabbed, and this thing pops up, and they just basically have to escape. And then maybe I wouldn't want it to get killed or anything. Maybe someone grabs a pirate sword and hacks off a tentacle. I think that'd be okay. You're not killing it, just hacking off a tentacle.
oh, was I was thinking like the Fratellis could come along and tangle with it later and then dynamite it or something, but and then there'd be room for
Yeah,
some one-liners, but uh about
right.
sushi or something. All right. So let's move into our post-mortem or whatever you want to call it,
Okay, yeah.
review.
Uh-huh.
Um so my question that I was thinking of originally was Well, so they find the whole adventure begins because they find on the ship, right, the hidden compartment and whatnot,
Hmm.
and it was just kind of like stepping on a plank or something like that.
Right.
Um, I guess this is kind of seems like kind of a movie thing, but why would it? Why would that particular message be a booby trap? Like, why the secrecy around it and trap
Oh,
it? Other than it's just neat and cool looking, you know? Is there? Did you have a?
no,
No. Okay.
because One Eyed Willie's he basically killed all of his crew members when they found out the truth that he was going to give the Pirate King Pierre all of the treasure, and that was like millions and millions of dollars in treasure. So back then, that was like they had more money than the Queen of England.
Okay.
So when they found out that he was just going to give it up all to save Knife Hand Jack, they were, like they were going to mutiny, and so he killed them all. And yeah, he didn't need to hide his. Well, okay, he does kind of need to hide his half of the pocket watch because it shows where One Eyed Willie and Knife Hand Jack hid their treasure somewhere else, maybe probably in the Caribbean. So in the third movie, the kids all, they take a vacation to Barbados or something, and but they're not really there for a vacation. They've got this treasure map. Um, but
Okay.
yeah, that kind of makes sense. But also,
Well, that
it's just a fun thing when
right.
the boob trap starts up. It's like, oh, what's going to happen? Then it's this thing pops open, and it's just this information.
So then my other question was, it's a heart-shaped island, and I th- at
How
least
would
well,
someone on
no,
a boat see a heart shaped island?
no, 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 no.
Eh.
I was, it's a heart-shaped island, which I thought would be symbolic, but so I was thinking instead of two best friends, why wasn't it One-Eyed Willie and his lover?
Okay,
Like a
so
female pirate or something.
I thought of that too. But the whole thing is the Goonies have drifted apart and they're no longer the best friends they had been. And so One Eyed Willie, he needs to have gone on this adventure to save his best friend, not his wife or girlfriend or boyfriend or husband. It's just like he's there to save his best friend. And Mikey, he just wants his friends back. And that's what the journey really is just the friends becoming best friends again and being okay with that things are changing and people the kids are still going to go off to college, but they're going to be friends for life.
All right, that makes sense. Um, so I typically in a sequel, you'd want to introduce some new characters. So I do think that if they did incorporate those flashbacks, then that would be the opportunity to have the new characters, even though they're long and dead.
Right.
And then maybe they could also be featured in part three if they're part of that treasure,
Oh,
the story too. I don't know.
that's true. Okay, so wait, who maybe One-Eyed Willie is played by, where we're talking 1989, Richard Dreyfuss with like a beard and a thing, right? You got Richard Dreyfuss as One-Eyed Willie.
No,
Or
no, no,
no, no, you don't
no,
like that?
no. Just think.
I was just thinking of like Steven Spielberg,
Wouldn't you? Yeah, but
actors from
wouldn't
the 80s.
he? Wouldn't they be like manly men, kind of? You know. Um.
I don't know, I think it's also kind of funny if we find out that.
I
Well,
think
okay, all right.
Richard Dreyfuss would be like the
Knife Hand Jack.
sidekick.
Okay, he
Wha-
could be knife. He could be Knife Hand Jack.
What's the You know, Captain Hook, he's got that Shmee or Smee, his
Uh-huh, yeah.
sidekick guy.
Yep, yep.
That's like Richard Dreyfuss.
So Richard Dreyfuss is Knife Hand Jack. Okay. I don't know. You put anyone in that cool, swashbuckling, those hats, the sideway things, and an eye patch, sword. Be awesome.
uh, well, around that time, 89. Well, Last Crusade was 89, but after that, I think Spielberg made Hook. Um,
Harrison Ford.
so
Harrison Ford could be One-Eyed Willie.
yeah, but he wouldn't. I mean,
I don't know. It's
un-
like
unless it was a one scene cameo. I
yeah. It's
mean,
it's it's 2 days work. Yeah.
although how old is One-Eyed Willie, you know? Is he like a 30-year-old guy or a 50-year-old guy?
Well, I think to the 13-year-old kids, anyone their parents' age is old.
Hmm,
So
yeah.
yeah.
I'm thinking like a 35-year-old or something. Uh, maybe like an up and coming actor in the late 80s in that age range.
Nah.
Probably think of, we'll probably think of people later, and so if we do, I'll put a text in the video so they can see what we're thinking.
Oh, for like your mid journey
Yeah.
things. Well, what about either Butch Cassidy or the Sundance Kid? Uh,
Right, you mean Redford
Redford,
and Paul
Paul
Newman.
Newman.
No.
You get both of them. That'd be
Oh,
awesome.
yeah. uh so I think, kind of like my Big Trouble in Little China sequel,
Hmm.
the Goonies sequel, of course, feels very familiar.
Yes.
And that's because audiences want more of the same, essentially.
Yes.
So you haven't strayed too far from the Goonies formula,
Nope.
um, but I think it makes perfect sense.
Yeah. I mean, you really, if you haven't, when was the last time you saw the Goonies? Years?
Probably, yeah.
Yeah.
Although
It,
talking about it now makes me want to see it.
it really holds up. There's nothing weird or problematic. It's PG, it's fun, it's sweet. The kids are all the acting's all great. It's funny. Um
It's got those dark moments like we mentioned.
yes,
And don't the gang, the Fratelli gang, don't they kill those two people in the beginning?
that no one dies on screen. But yes,
Right.
the kids when they go to the Fratelli's hideout, that restaurant, they find
Yeah.
like I think an FBI agent dead in the um freezer.
Yeah. Or in a car. I don't
They
I
find the
don't
car.
forget
They find the car
with
with the
bullet
bullet holes
holes.
in it. Yeah, from the chase after
Yeah.
they escape
So
prison.
you said in the climax that the Fratellis survive. So is your idea that they'd come back for part 3 too? And I'm wondering if is that too much?
That's probably too
like
much. Well, unless it just depends on where the treasure map is. I mean, would it be fun to leave Astoria for the third movie? Yeah, but you wouldn't have to. If the other treasure, if One-Eyed Willie and Knife Hand Jack's treasure is nearby, then yeah, you can have the Fratellis back again after they again escape prison. Um,
but you definitely don't want them to die at the end.
no, I don't.
Oh,
It's not that kind of movie.
okay.
Yeah, like yeah, you can't. Yeah. Plus, Sloth, it is his mom and brothers, and he doesn't have any love for them, but he doesn't want them to die. And yeah, it's not that kind of movie. No, no on screen deaths. I don't even think. anyone will get hurt that bad. You know, in the first movie, in the climax when they're on the pirate ship, Mama Fratelli makes them all walk the plank, but like the kids can all swim, so it doesn't really mean anything. But it's kind of a fun, moment. Like, why she grabs a sword, a pirate sword, it's like walk the plank, and it's like, yeah, they all just jump off, uh, and swim away. But it's yeah.
I'm wondering with Sloth if, because let's say, they made this trilogy and each one's a number of years after the other.
Hmm.
I'm wondering with the advancements in prosthetic makeup, if maybe like in the sequel, it'd still be Sloth, but maybe those deformities would be more subtle or less prominent, you know?
Or he just
Or
when
he's
he's
had some surgeries,
No, I think you want to
you know?
keep him the way he looks. But like when he's working at the video store, he wears a hat and maybe he has glasses, not sunglasses, just glasses. And it's just like it doesn't matter what he looks like. He's a good guy, and everyone in the town has kind of adopted him. And so yeah, is
I
he
was just
is he still
I was
scary
just
looking?
thinking maybe, he's growing out his hair and he has a beard but
Oh.
like instead of one eye being down here, it's just like it's not as extreme, you know?
It's like when we first.
Like would anyone care?
Oh.
Would anyone care if you make that minor kind of, just to
No.
make it a little more
Make it more a
realistic
little realistic.
and less frightening?
It's like when you first see him, yeah, he's scary. But then later on in the movie, when him and Chunk show up, to save the day, you don't mind that he looks the way he does, and the kids, when they all get to the shore at the end and the police come to arrest the Fratellis, the police like pull their guns on Sloth because, oh my god, what's this thing? And the kids all like jump in front of them. They're like, no, 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 he's our friend. And Chunk even says to Sloth, you're gonna live with me now. You're gonna be my brother. And just a little weird. But yeah, it doesn't matter what he looks like. That's like another little lesson from the movie. It's like,
Okay. But to be fair, I don't think anyone since the Goonies has tried to teach that lesson in a movie.
like Shrek.
Not in that
Like Shrek,
same
right?
way,
Shrek is a
right?
monster,
But
but he's a nice
yeah, but
woodland guy.
yeah.
Don't judge a book by its cover, even if it's horribly deformed. Plus,
All
like the
right.
first time we see Sloth, he's gonna be like petting this tiny little kitten, and everyone's gonna be like, "Oh, he's the best."
Yeah. Yeah, I would like to see in part 3, you see that he's like has an animal shelter or something now, and he's got the dogs from the second movie
Yeah, and
and
his little kitten is now
all
a
kinds
big
of other
cat. He's got a
things. And
bird.
I mean, would he also travel to the Caribbean, or could we leave him out of
No,
part
no, you
3?
need Sloth. I considered for a second not having Sloth in the movie, but he's such a big part of the first that, and he's a innocent friend of the Goonies. So I think he's one of the Goonies. He's one of the young Goonies, even though the young Goonies aren't really that young anymore. They're all in, seniors.
Yeah. I would leave him at home in part 3. 'Cause look, he's become like, he's adapted to the local environment in Astoria, and
Yeah.
he's been adopted by the townsfolk or
Yeah.
whatever, but having him
Why do you hate
travel
Sloth?
like, he's gonna be scaring people on the airplane. Like, it's just weird, but
But those are
anyway.
funny things, like, I was think
I think I think the lesson you know, is
Yeah.
good. It's just odd.
It is stuff. I mean, yes, it's totally
Um,
ridiculous. Like, if he'd just been dropped a couple of times, his eye wouldn't be down here.
I mean, to be chained up in a basement and where they like feed him fish heads and
Yeah,
stuff,
like just
like,
gross stuff. Yeah,
like
slop.
that would be traumatic enough for,
Yes.
anyone.
Yeah.
And then you add on the deformities and all that. It's just,
But like, by the second movie, he's learned to read. He has a job. He has his own little apartment. You
mm.
know,
All right.
it'd be cool if it was like in 1989. Were Blockbuster videos a thing? No, probably not. I don't know. It'd be funny if he was wearing a Blockbuster video like uniform.
Yeah. All right. So that was Goonies 2 One Eye Willie's Revenge. Hope you liked it. If you have anything to add, please let us know in the comments. For the next episode, we're going to do something slightly different again. We're going to go back to reimagining movies that disappointed us, but John and I are going to do it together live, so to speak, and see if we can come up with something interesting or better.
Hopefully
It
better.
should, well, it'll be interesting, I think, no matter what.
Yeah, if we fail,
Well,
it'll be interesting. Yeah.
well, better, I don't know, but maybe we should time ourselves, or have a little stopwatch going or something. So,
Give ourselves 35
yeah,
minutes.
that'll
Okay.
be make it a little more intense. Like, all right, we've got 2 minutes left
And
to
we're still
finish
in.
the first act, and then we got to move on.
Yeah. Okay.
Uh,
That's fun.
and so I think what we're talking about is we're gonna come up with a few different movies. We're gonna put them in a hat, and then we're gonna randomly draw one, and then just go with it.
Yeah. So we can't
So
prepare at all. Yep.
that should be fun. And then if people like that, if it turns out well, we could even try to do it live one time
If. Oh, yeah.
using, streaming live on YouTube.
Oh,
That would
okay.
be interesting.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that's the plan for next episode. Hope you join us. See you later.